The most dangerous thing for our kids isn't standing behind a dark alley in a parking lot. The most dangerous thing for our kids is in their backpack. It's in their back pocket. It's their phone and their access to the internet and predators' access to them. People leave Sound of Freedom. They want to go, rescue kids in Colombia. The worst thing you can do is go to Mexico and try to rescue kids. You're going to get arrested. You're probably going to get shot. The best thing you can do is go home and hug your kids. And people are like, well, how does hugging my kids make a difference? Well, the majority of children that get taken don't come from a healthy home. They come from runaways, a broken home, a broken foster care program. So the more you can do to hold your family together, the better it is for your children. And beyond that, having a relationship with your children where they can very comfortably come to you and say, Dad, I don't like it when you hire this babysitter. She says we should have secrets outside of you, and she's showing us pornography, or I don't like it when I have to hug Uncle Harry because he touches me weird and says that we should trust him more than you, or I don't like it. Or you need to have a relationship with your kids where they can comfortably come to you and say, Dad, I screwed up. I was on my gaming platform and I was chatting back and forth with this girl who I thought was 13 like me, and she said to send her some pictures, and I did, and then she wanted more videos, and I sent one, and now she wants money and says that I have to meet at a certain place, otherwise she's going to send these pictures all over the internet. Well, it's probably not a 13-year-old girl. It's a 45-year-old dude talking to your kid, and it's called sextortion. The FBI said it's one of the most fastest growing threats to our children right now. And predators find you. The most dangerous thing for our kids isn't standing behind a dark alley in a parking lot. The most dangerous thing for our kids is in their backpack. It's in their back pocket. It's their phone and their access to the internet and predators' access to them. And so we need to be hyper aware as to what is going on there, and tell your kids you can have social media, but how about you just have it so your friends can see you, not the whole world can see what's going on? How can we put a filter in place so that those predators don't have access to your children?
Yeah, it's very disheartening to think about that. But the conversations, I think back to growing up, and my parents were always pretty open about conversations. We weren't allowed to spend the night at anybody's house either, and that was something else. Now, a lot of that came from the trauma that I witnessed when I was young, which I've talked about on the show before, and my parents just wanting to make sure they protected us at all costs. But a lot of those situations happen with families of friends that you think that have older brothers or older sisters that are doing things that you just willy-nilly let your kids spend the night at some random person's house that you've met in a school lunch line once, or a the carpool line. That is a very dangerous thing, and a lot of these things can lead to deeper challenges.
Exactly.
What are you seeing as far as the change? Okay, so the movie comes out, 70 million people see the movie. I think you said it might be more than that. I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say that was what you said. And it's changing lives. It's changing legislation. It's impacting how we look and talk about something. It's opening up lines of communication. What's the next level of making a difference? What are you working on that's making a difference right now?
Well, this is where my deep passion is. And this goes back to, my company 35 years ago that was in the mental health space in helping people overcome anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions. So fast forward, let's go back to the Paul F. and Hutchinson. I'm building this huge company, and I received that phone call from my undercover operators. Now, at the time, we were burning through operators. We had Green Berets with 300 missions in Afghanistan that already had PTSD, that one undercover mission to rescue kids, and seeing a menu with children's faces and prices of what they would do. I mean, it would just throw them over the top. They just couldn't deal with the darkness. And so we were looking for ways to work with their PTSD and help them release some of that negative energy. But sadly, I wasn't looking in the mirror at the fact that the negative energy was having an effect on me. Yes, I was helping to rescue kids, But I was in this toxic, negative. I mean, you don't meet traffickers at the Ritz-Carlton. You meet them in strip clubs in the middle of Tijuana. I mean, some dark, dark energy spaces that we were connecting with traffickers. We were rescuing the kids, and it was playing a toll. My massive success in my company, the rescue missions, all of it was playing a toll in creating an unmitigated ego that was out of control. I mean, the truth is, I'd have parties at my house every other weekend with NBA players and half-dressed girls, and so I trusted these operators to go to this healing retreat, and they introduced me to some doctors and some scientists that were developing the proper protocol for the use of things like psilocybin and other psychedelics when it comes to PTSD, addictions, childhood trauma, anxiety, depression, etc. And veterans now, there's a lot of new studies. In fact, Texas just put another $50 million into some new studies on the proper use of these tools. Veterans are going to these retreats and literally releasing their PTSD within days. And this is what I saw 10 years ago. Now, for me, it was the most beautiful, horrific experience of my life. Horrific because the music, the facilitator, the experience gave me pure empathy. I felt in every cell of my being, I felt the pain that my children felt when I cheated on their mom, as if I was them. I felt the joy of the children that we helped to rescue, as if I was them. I could feel the joy as they were reuniting with their families. And then I felt the ripple effect of my actions. The man who came to my party and slept with a cheerleader, and now his wife broke up with him, and now a year later, his daughter gets abused by the new boyfriend of the mom because the father wasn't in the home, and the son gets on drugs. And the ripple effect of my actions in the world was as if it was me. I could feel Satan had his foot on my chest, and I was 600 miles in the dirt, and I couldn't even breathe. And the facilitator was there working with me. She knew what I was working on. She changed the playlist back to what I call my Jesus list. And it was like I felt the hand of God just literally pulling me out of this dirt. And I could feel all this crap coming off of me. And then we went in the other room, and I was sitting there. I was still under the. Now, we're not talking about microdosing. We're talking about enough where you need help to walk, right?
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
was a
sitting
dose.
there, but a trained facilitator that knew how to work with big egos like me, and I said to her, I had up on the shelf, I had some statues of some Greek gods. In fact, I brought one here to show you. I had Atlas that was holding
Okay,
the
yeah,
world on his shoulders,
on his
right?
shoulders.
And on either side, I had Zeus and Poseidon that were protecting him. And I said, you know why I have that? I said, because I'm kind of like Atlas. I have 4,000 employees. I'm like holding the world on my shoulders. But look how strong God made me. I can handle that. And she's kind of smiling at my ego self a little bit. And she said, Paul, she said, I honor that you see some strengths there. She said, but what about your relationship with him? And she pointed at this statue I had of Christ. And I said, oh, I don't qualify for a relationship with him. She said, well, why not? I said, well, when I left the church of my youth 10 years ago, my bishop told me that if I wasn't rebaptized, then wouldn't have the Spirit of God with me. And she said, do you really think that's true? I said, well, no, I try to do good things. I do a lot of charity. She goes, why don't you work on that relationship for a little while? And so here I literally can't even stand. She grabs the statue, and I sit down on the beanbag, and I just cried for the next 2 hours, reestablishing that healthy relationship with my brother. Now, the science behind it, let me give you just a minute of the science. When we're kids, we're in a state of neuroplasticity. 0 to 9 years old, we're very impressionable. And if you imagine your subconscious mind is a brick of gold, and this brick of gold is in flow state when we're kids. And then after 9 or 10 years old, it kind of hardens. Now it takes 21 days to chip away at the edge of that brick of gold to make any changes to our habits. And our subconscious mind runs 95% of our life. Well, if something happens when we're kids, especially, that gets embedded in that gold bar. Our uncle does something to us, we witness something that's super horrible, or even something simple, or dad says you look ugly in blue, whatever it is, it affects us throughout our entire life. And 10 and 20 years worth of therapy don't really break through some of that. Well, the psilocybin, the psychedelic experience, creates a temporary state of neuroplasticity, like when we're kids, where we're very impressionable, and a trained facilitator can literally do 10 and 20 years worth of therapy in 24 hours. And so that's the beginning of what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I recognize that just pulling children out of hell was never going to fix the problem. We needed to pull the hell out of humanity. How do we do that? We need to give them tools to heal through their anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions. So I do a lot of training in meditation and in breath work, in release techniques to be able to break through it. And we became master facilitators in the proper use of everything from ketamine to psilocybin to ayahuasca to iboga. We work with doctors in all of those areas, and we run healing retreats around the world. And we're working on changing the laws and policies when it comes to the proper use of these. Now, a 2-second note, guys, I'm not a fan whatsoever of somebody going to a rave party and getting high with their friends on mushrooms. This is not only a bad idea, it's dangerous. Why? Because in that state of neuroplasticity, you're very impressionable. And you're at a rave party and you've got a rap music going over there and somebody yelling at their wife over there and an orgy going over, whatever it is, you're in that energy, and your subconscious mind is open, and it can negatively affect you. However, in the right environment, with the right facilitators, we're doing an ayahuasca experience in 3 weeks here in Colombia, which is why I'm down here and setting things up. And in the right environment, you can literally release years of childhood trauma, years of addictions. We have a very high success rate in breaking free of anxiety, depression medications with people. So anyway, that's what I'm excited about. Yes, we still run the Child Liberation Foundation. We still fund rescue missions and healing retreats and safe houses. But as a whole, it's how do we heal the adults? How do we liberate humanity so that we can liberate the children?
Yeah, and with the rampant sexual abuse of children, of so many humans, the healing is so important to kind of provide that clean slate and that restart. What a challenge that could be. To the work doesn't just end with the rescue mission. The work begins with the rescue mission. And I would imagine that's probably one of the other challenges, and that's what you're trying to work at, is how to impact a lot of other people. How do you see that um, amplifying here in the US? Are you seeing legs, or do you feel like it's still hitting hurdles?
Well, the
Significant.
biggest hurdle is big pharma. When you're making tens of billions of dollars a year, keeping people sick, keeping people addicted to their anxiety, depression medications, just numbing their energies instead of healing them, then yeah, you run up against a lot there. However, I've been friends with RFK for about 10 years, and he's agreed to come and not only fix a lot of the things that's going on with big pharma and the food industry, et cetera, but he's working on some measures to decriminalize the proper use of these tools. Now, when it is decriminalized, though, it's so important that it's used with honor, with respect, in the right environment, in the right space, with the right facilitators. But in doing so, it will make a massive impact with the mental health challenges we have in the U.S. And some states are already changing. They've decriminalized it in Oregon and Colorado, parts of California, and Nevada, and others are looking at it now. And so it's beautiful to see how many minds are being opened to the reality that this is truly something that can help alleviate one of the biggest challenges we have in the US.
So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.